remember the lives that were lost in the earthquake, in the tsunami, and on the ongoing disaster at the nuclear power plants in Fukushima. We're here today to stand in solidarity with the people of Japan and the people all around the world observing this day on the second anniversary of that terrible time, to try to send a very clear message that what happened there could happen here. And it's important that we be as proactive as possible to prevent that. Our first speaker is Andrew J. Spano. He served as the Westchester County Executive from 1998 until 2010. Prior to his election as County Executive, Andy Spano was Westchester County Clerk from 1982 to 1994. I know Mr. Spano as a powerful elected official who was willing to stand up to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, to testify before Congress, to put the safety of the people he was representing above his own personal political interests, and to tell the truth about the unacceptability of the risk posed by Indian Point. Please welcome Andy Spano.
When I got into office, I had no idea that I would try to join a crusade to close Indian Point. But as I did my job, I began to see things. I was responsible for making sure everyone got evacuated. Scared the hell out of me. One is, I didn't think you could do that. I don't think it could be done. And two is, we didn't have the resources to do it. When I get into this issue with people on the other side, they say that's the safest plant in the United States. I heard the NRC director told me that personally. Indian Point has an incredible amount of fuel rods. Those fuel pools are filled with more rods than is on the whole. You've got issues that are real, that people can see. Not that you didn't before, but people can see these things. And these two sailors that you're going to hear today, real life people in the United States Armed Forces who were there. So we have to really worry about this plant. It shouldn't be here. Over 30 million people are in this area. If something happens to our water, if something happens to our food, and our lives, and how long does it take to recover? You don't have to be angry at everybody. Just get this plant closed. Get this plant closed.
I joined the Navy because just for the opportunity that it presented. I really, my brother at the time was a Marine and he was enjoying himself, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do with school. I
went in undesignated, so it meant that I had to do like all the grunt work for 2 years and choose a job. And I wound up choosing quartermaster, which is a job that Jaime is, and that entails us navigating, and we pretty much choose a safe route from point A to point B.
Another part of our job was handling flags and sending messages to other ships with different nautical flags and flying them above the ship so other ships knew what we were doing. Those flags are fabric, and the polyester rope is what we use to haul them up and down. They're obviously very porous, so they just absorb the radiation.
I was given an order to go out to the weather decks, which is the outside area of the ship. And this is before we knew that there was radiation. And I was supposed to go retrieve an American flag so we could give to the Japanese as a gift. I went up there, I went to get the flag, I pulled it down. The halyards are the rope that you pull the flag down with. They were all wet and they've been soaking. And I guess radiation. By the time I got the flag down, the wind was blowing, so the flag wrapped around me. It was just smacking me in the face and all sorts of stuff. They started setting up checkpoints, and they didn't tell us why, but there were checkpoints all along the ship near all the important areas, especially the reactors. And to get from one point of the ship to the other point, you had to stop there. my friend Longo suggested we stop and get checked, so he went first. He got his boots checked, he got his hands checked, and he was fine. I got my boots checked and I got my hands checked, and the machine starts slow and then picks up, and then before I know it, it's like going crazy, and instantly everybody just backed up. All the people with the machines, they all backed up. They told Longo to get away from me, and it went from me and him like joking around and smiling to me being like nervous because they started treating me like I had the plague. Like they told like everybody in the cafeteria to stand fast to get back. They told me not to touch none of them. They put bags on my hands. I had to walk in front of them about like 5 feet, and they had guys in front of me telling everybody to back up. And they took me to the decon station. They told me to stand in this little square, and they told me not to move. And they had to take 3 layers of skin off my hands, my arms. And that lasted for about 40 minutes. I had to get a layer taken off, and they had to rub soap and water and get the orange scrub off, and then I had to go back and they had to rub it off again. And this lasted for 40 minutes. And they just kept testing me after each scrubbing, and I kept hoping that it would be over because it was embarrassing. There's so many people around watching because there's other people waiting in line to come in and get decontaminated. And I just remember that they were just being so mean to me, and they wouldn't tell me what was going on. Like I was asking questions like, "Am I going to be okay?" And they wouldn't answer me, and they just kept yelling at me, telling me not to move, not to touch anybody.
The first time I even really thought about the radiation is when they called me and said that he had to be scrubbed. And I'm thinking, for what? And it was just a complete shock. And even at that time, they made it seem like, oh, it was just a precautionary measure. So people didn't really believe that there was any type of leak because we were cut off from the outside world. When anything like that happens, the ship shuts down internet, news, phones, anything. So we didn't know what was going on other than what we were being told and what TEPCO was telling our command. We later found out that TEPCO told our command that it was safe to go in and provide relief because we were giving food, we were giving clothes, we were giving water. We had our helicopters, we were on aircraft carrier. We had our helicopters going from the ship to shore, taking all this stuff. And it seems to me that TEPCO made the decision to tell us that it was safe to go in because they needed this help for their people. And if they were to tell us about the leak and about the radiation, we wouldn't have gone in, and then their people wouldn't have gotten help. So it's just a conflict that they were facing, but unfortunately it affected not only the people of Japan, but our ship as well, who were there trying to provide relief and give materials. Middle of deployment, he started developing the lumps on his face and his thigh, and immediately it scared me because the first thing you think of when you see a lump on somebody is bad.
I know that I wasn't like this before this happened. I know that my hair wasn't falling out. I know that I could run every day. I know that it wasn't hard for me to breathe. I know that I didn't have lumps on my face, on my thigh. I know that Jaime wasn't sick before all this. I know that we were perfectly fine. And everybody always asks, how do you know that you're sick from the radiation? I don't know for sure, but I do know I was perfectly fine before this happened.
I was in the emergency room on and off all through 2012, and nobody could figure out, with low blood count, and nobody could figure out what it was. So they used a blanket general diagnosis of dysfunctional uterine bleeding. I had to almost get a blood transfusion once because my blood count was so low. And there was nothing they could do. They couldn't figure anything else. They just gave it this general diagnosis that really didn't leave me with any answers and didn't help me. And it's still going on today, and it never stopped. Other than that, I developed bronchitis in last February 2012. From February 2012 to about the summer of 2012, I had bronchitis 6 times. A lot of people are telling us they don't understand why we don't go to the VA. We're hearing that a lot. So I think it's important to say, if you retire from the military, if you do 20 years or more, you can go, you get medical benefits forever, just like most retirements. If you do your one enlistment, 4 or 5 years, once you're out, you don't get anything unless they determine that those are service-related disabilities. Well, since everyone's still saying that there was no or not much radiation exposure for all parties, TEPCO saying this and the Navy, that we're not getting, that they're not going to pay for that. They're not going to help us with that. And if they do, it's going to take years to fight it. And time is one thing that you can't waste with this kind of stuff.
Part of the process of getting out of the military is you have to complete a checkoff list. And the last thing on the checkoff list is to hand your medical record to your personnel where you're stationed. So I don't have my medical records, and they lost my medical records. The only stuff that I have been able to find from my medical records is my stuff from boot camp, which is like my flu shot and stuff like that. I don't blame the Navy. We get asked that question a lot too, because the 5,000 sailors that was with us were all exposed to radiation too. That's the higher ups, the people taking orders, the people giving orders, they're all exposed too. I think it was just a really bad situation. We're trying to help out, and we weren't prepared for that type of situation. We were prepared to help out for a tsunami, but we didn't know anything about a power plant. We were out there for so long, and we didn't know anything that was going on the land, because we didn't have internet, we didn't have cable, we didn't have radios. All we knew was with what the people from the land was telling us. All the way up until the lawsuit happened, we kind of just been dealing with this on our own. We didn't expect anybody to help us. We didn't think there was anything we can do. I had already went ahead and made plans to just save up and hope for the best for me and Jamie. There's 150 other sailors involved in the lawsuit that aren't really being taken care of because they're not acknowledging that we were hit with radiation, because then I believe that would make them all look bad. There's so much going on that people don't know about, and they think they're helping us, and they're not. There's people donating money, and we don't ever see that money. None of the vets. I know the people that are like extremely disfigured and stuff like that, they're receiving help, but the people who have mental disorders and stuff like that, they're not receiving any type of attention. I'm hoping that we start treating our vets better.